Nations Convention Against Corruption in Merida, Mexico in 2003. Kenya is set to undergo a review of its implementation of the convention in 2013-2014 as per the UNCAC Implementation Review Mechanism adopted by the Conference of State Parties in Doha, Qatar in 2009. We have already put in place the necessary laws and institutions that are required under the convention, and we shall share our experiences in this regard substantially during this session. We are therefore ready to submit ourselves to the review, and we are fortunate that we are familiar with the review mechanism, having participated in the review of Mongolia in 2010-2011 and Malaysia in 2012-2013. The outcome of the review will go a long way towards examining the strengths and weaknesses of our anti-corruption laws, systems, and institutions, with a view to adopting measures to address these. Further, the review will provide us with an opportunity to benchmark our anti-corruption legal and institutional regime with international standards and best practices. More importantly, Kenya will be fulfilling her international obligations in terms of Article 2.6 and Article 132.5 of our Constitution, and in accordance with the obligations of state parties to UNCAC. Distinguished delegates, at the 51st session, Kenya reported that the establishment of a regional arbitration center was on course. We are happy to report that in January 2013, earlier this year, the President of the Republic of Kenya assented into law the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration Act, number 26 of 2013. This act establishes the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration, whose objectives are in line with ALCO's objectives of setting up regional centers of arbitration as a viable alternative to existing arbitration institutions. To highlight some of the functions of the center will promote, facilitate, and encourage the conduct of international commercial arbitration. The center will administer domestic and international arbitrations, as well as alternative dispute resolution techniques under its auspices. The center will organize international conferences, seminars, and training programs for arbitrators and scholars. And the center will maintain proactive cooperation with other regional international institutions in areas relevant to achieving the center's objectives. The center will provide ad hoc arbitration by facilitating the parties with necessary technical and administrative assistance at the behest of parties, and provide advice and assistance for the enforcement and translation of arbitral awards. We should point out that the Act establishes an arbitral court which shall be governed by the UNCITRAL rules. The center will be administered by a board of directors, and these have already been appointed and are drawn from eminent legal practitioners and arbitrators from the East African region who have been nominated by their respective domestic arbitration bodies. In moving ahead with the process of establishing the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration, our immediate focus is to ensure adequate budgetary allocations, facilitate the identification of suitable premises for the center, and the recruitment of staff. The government of Kenya therefore wishes to reassure ALCO member states that we are on course in realizing our undertaking to establish the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration as a regional arbitration center. Madam Vice President, with those foregoing comments, we anticipate further fruitful discussions on the items to be deliberated during the session. We thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. Nigeria, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We stand on existing protocols. Your Excellencies, the Nigerian delegation hereby congratulate the President of the 52nd session and the Vice President for their elections respectively. We also thank the Secretary General and his staff, entire staff, for organizing and hosting the 52nd session of ALCO. The Nigerian delegation appreciates the work of the Secretary General and his staff towards realizing the objectives of the organization. Nigeria pledges to continue its cooperation and the progress of ALCO. Madam President, Nigeria reiterates and supports the United Nations in the maintenance of world peace and security. It also supports ALCO for identifying the maintenance of peace and security as one of its primary objectives along the principles and standards of the United Nations. Nigeria notes all the work of this great organization in the activities of the International Law Commission and welcomes its contributions towards uplifting the participation and development of member states by giving them quality guidance. Madam Vice President, Nigeria also supports the work of ALCO on environment and sustainable development, the fight against corruption, law of the sea, and terrorism. It will be recalled that during the 51st session hosted by Nigeria, the subject of international terrorism was discussed with particular reference to the experience the country was having or presently having. It should be appreciated that the times have been very challenging to the government and the people of Nigeria. However, within the period, the Federal Republic of Nigeria enacted the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2011. That act was fashioned along the lines of the United Nations standards. Member states may also appreciate that security problems facing the country are not religious as is generally believed elsewhere. The Nigerian government believes that these are issues or activities of, which can be ascribed to criminals and maybe some negative people just to cause some political upheavals here and there and cause economic problems for the government. And the government has continuously reiterated its position that the crisis in Nigeria is not religious. Madam Vice President, I wish to inform that Nigeria has enacted various legislations and established institutions for the fight against corruption to the barest minimum. The attempts to fight corruption in Nigeria accords with the standards promoted by ALCO and the United Nations. And I wish to inform that presently Nigeria is presently being reviewed. I also wish to report that Nigeria has submitted its second review report to the Geneva-based Human Rights Council on the implementation of the recommendations it submitted in 2008 to that council regarding the implementation of human rights reports. Nigeria has also enacted the law and established agencies to fight human trafficking. The law presently has been amended to the extent that the Child Rights Act, which came out of it, is for the prevention of the child against child labor or abuse. The law against human trafficking as well is presently being reviewed by the National Assembly in Nigeria to include not just women or children, but persons generally. On economic and sustainable development, Nigeria subscribes and supports the efforts of ALCO in contributing to protect the atmosphere and the world generally. Accordingly, Nigeria will reiterate its commitment to ALCO and calls on the organization to continue to provide expert knowledge and guidance to member states. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigeria. Distinguished delegates, we have a scheduled coffee break, but may I ask delegates, we just have 2 more statements outstanding, so we'll continue. We'll just hear them out, and then we'll possibly have a coffee break. Thanks. The next, I call on the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Madam Vice President, I am very pleased to address this August gathering on behalf of the delegation of the Islamic Republic of Iran. At the outset, I would like to congratulate you and congratulate the Madam President for your election to preside over the 52nd annual session of the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization. My delegation would also like to thank the Government of India for hosting this session. We would very much appreciate if necessary measures could be taken by the India's relevant authorities with regard to timely issuance of entry visas for ALCO member states delegations. Madam Vice President, the Islamic Republic of Iran continues to attach high importance to the ALCO and stands ready to make every effort to further utilize its potentials in strengthening the rule of international law. My delegation praises the ALCO Secretariat for important jobs it has managed to do in the face of very limited resources. The role of the Secretary General, Mr. Rahmat Mohammed, in capably handling the affairs of the Secretariat has been very crucial and outstanding. The Secretary General could play a very important role in raising awareness about the works and functions of the organization, as well as on its contribution to development of international law. We have always been supportive of this role. Based on this vision, the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran hosted His Excellency Mr. Rahmat Mohammed, who traveled to Iran at the initiative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in April 2013. During his visit to Iran, the Secretary General met with high-ranking officials, including the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister of Justice. He also visited Tehran Arbitration Center and was briefed on the activities of the center and the challenges it faced. The Secretary General visited Iranian academia as well, where he made presentations on the works of the ALCO and had ample opportunity to interact and exchange views with Iranian students and professors in one of the top-ranking universities, namely Shahid Beheshti University, and in the School of International Relations of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We thank the Secretary General for traveling to Iran and believe that his presence in Iran provided a good opportunity for Iranian university students and teachers in the fields of law and international relations to better appreciate the important role of the ALCO in development of international law from the perspective of Asian and African countries and